Welcome to We Question and Learn. Kathy Dahlkemper, we're very fortunate to have you here to speak with on We Question and Learn, and a good day to you.
Good day to you, and it's always great to be with you, Tom. I always enjoy our conversations and obviously getting more information out about county government to all of your listeners.
We appreciate that. And it's a strange world we live in. I watch you on TV frequently. I do know that you take everything involved with the COVID situation very seriously, and it seems like I was teasing you. I asked you when you sleep. It's not to make a joke about, but frankly, has this been stressful? I shouldn't even ask you that. Of course it has, but...
Of course it is. And it's stressful for everyone, I think, whether you're in a position like mine or whether you're just a person who, can't do what you normally do and is concerned about your family and friends. We've never lived through anything like this. The last pandemic of this magnitude was more than 100 years ago, so if there are any people alive and listening, good for you for a nice long life, but most of us haven't lived that long, and so this is a new territory for pretty much everyone involved. And in many ways, probably not since World War II has our country been asked and our individual citizens been asked to sacrifice collectively for such a long period of time. So it's been difficult for all of us. Obviously, the economy has been affected, certainly our personal health, even our family life and our opportunities to do things with our friends and to be out and about. Normally I would see you and so many others at various different events over time in Erie County, and just we haven't seen each other. So we see each other only on Zoom or hear each other over the radio, and that's our new form of communication. So it's very stressful.
You're working on a big project, right? The COVID scenario has prompted what they call, forgive me if I have the title incorrect, the CARES Act, right?
Right. So the CARES Act was actually federal funding. That was the name that they put on the federal funding.
Okay.
Within that CARES Act, the county received about $24 million. Counties that were over 500,000 people got directly funded from the state. From the federal government. We got funded through the DCED from the state. So there's about 60 counties that would be in our situation. All that money has to be expended by December 30th per the federal legislation. And so we had to, within a very short period of time, actually, put together a plan on how this money would be spent, start some programs that different entities could apply for this money to, because it's not just for county government, it's for the community as a whole. So obviously some of the funding is going to cover some of the expenses that we've had in county government around fighting COVID-19. But we also wanted to make sure that our municipalities, we have 38 of them in Erie County, that they all got funding for their expenses for COVID-19, and then help out our nonprofits and our small businesses who are also very much struggling through this. So we created a couple programs to assist those entities with some grants. This is not a loan. It's a grant. They do not have to repay it, but it does have to go for effects of COVID-19 on their business or nonprofit.
That's not an easy task. Did you use all your current staff to do this?
Luckily, we had hired a grant writer shortly before this all happened.
Yes.
And Melinda Myers is very familiar with that type of a process, so she's sort of been leading the effort in terms of doing this work. But it's really, we had a nice, very hardworking task force that kind of pulled us all together. And then, for example, with the nonprofits, there was a group that volunteered from the Department of Human Services who also deals a lot with our nonprofits and with doing a lot of grant work. And they kind of ran the grant program. The small business program, we really didn't have the expertise in-house, so we went to the Erie County Redevelopment Authority, and they had actually stepped up on their own prior to CARES Act way in the beginning and did a small business no-interest loan program. They were one of the first to get out there and try to help our small businesses, but they were able to run this grant program for us, and that was obviously a huge help. And then the municipalities, we were able to just use our planning department because they work with the municipalities all the time, and so they work with them on other funding sources, so that was a pretty easy fit for them. So, we use sort of a combination of county staff and county-affiliated authority, But a lot of good people, have spent some time trying to get this money out the door, and didn't maybe go out as quickly as some wanted to, or as quickly as maybe we wanted to. But again, this is public dollars. You got to be very careful with it and make sure it's being spent in the right way. We've all seen in the past, whether it was 9/11 or stimulus money during the Great Recession and different things, where sometimes money would go out and it wasn't exactly going to the right effort. And we wanted to make sure that that didn't happen here in Erie County, because in the end of the day, county government is responsible for these dollars, and we would have to repay anything that's not properly used.
Okay. You'll be audited. You will be audited.
We will be audited. We will be subject to what they call the single audit from the federal government.
Wow.
And so we were very conscientious and cautious about this money and where it went to and what we could use it for, so that we don't end up in the end of the day next year, 2021, when we have that audit, have to have any consequences that would be negative for the county.
And of course, the county goes on, even though we're faced with this incredible crisis.
Yes, it goes on, and there's lots of work to be done that has nothing to do with COVID, but I guess this year everything has to do with COVID in some way. So county government marches on, and, as we all started to kind of get back to work after the initial shutdown, county government opened back up, and the courts opened back up, and all the other departments. One of the great things that this has actually done, I think, for all of us, is figure out how we can do many, many more things online. So instead of coming to the courthouse for certain licenses or other documents and such, people are learning how to do all that online these days. And we encourage people to continue to do that. More people are using our online services at the Erie County Library System. Lots of people were already using those already, but it's forced people to maybe use it more vigorously, or if they never had tried before, to use that service. And all of these things, I think, are good for the long run, even beyond COVID. That we have upgraded our systems. People have learned to use things. Everything's more user friendly online, and that's what we need to all be moving towards, COVID or not.
This may be an obvious answer or a question to some folks, but to others, did you have to hire up? How much did you have to change the organization? Do you see where I'm going? How much did you have to physically change?
And the health department, we're basically running almost like two health departments right now.
Okay.
So in the beginning, all of the health department staff was moved to working on COVID, pretty much 100%.
Yes.
But that meant we didn't inspect restaurants, but of course most restaurants were closed at that point.
Right.
It meant that we didn't do some of the other water quality work that we do. It meant a number of, we didn't run clinics for things like tuberculosis or STDs and some of those things that we normally do at the health department. So all that work stopped while everyone moved to fight the pandemic.
Right.
Over time, we had to get back to that general work. So the health department, fortunately, beyond the CARES Act money, was able to get a significant amount of money through the federal government, passed through the state, to hire on new people. And we are still hiring. So if anyone's listening, check our website for careers out there, because there's a lot of good job openings still through the health department. But these would be people who have an RN, epidemiologist, certain skill sets that really help the health department with this pandemic. And so we are sort of running two entities right now. The regular health department that does the work that they do every year, every day, and then this other entity which is out there fighting the pandemic. And so we have brought in well over 50 people to fight the pandemic. Or we will once we finally get all of these positions filled.
Yeah, and those are not...
We believe work will go on for at least a year, because even with the hopeful vaccine information that's out there, it will be a while until the vaccine is here and widely available, and then there will still be work to be done on this pandemic for a while. So we will continue at this operation until the pandemic is no longer a threat.
Thank you. You answered my next question. With that many people on board now, did you have to make some structural changes? What about space? How did you manage all that?
Yes, because of course we're all social distancing, right?
Right. So more people in the same amount, or obviously less space.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so we had to spread people out. That became difficult because truly in the first week or two of this pandemic, we
Hmm.
were all sitting in a room together. And then all of a sudden it was like, we can't be doing this. So,
No.
everything, then people started separating and now in offices across county government, if they cannot be 6 foot apart in their normal workspace, we have increased things like plexiglass separators,
Hmm.
things like that, so that they do feel safe. We've also moved a lot more people to working remotely and coming in only when they need to.
Mm.
So that's happened in the Office of Children and Youth, for example. It did happen in the health department we were already moving that way in some areas in the health department, but with our inspectors, the ones who go out and inspect, whether it be restaurants or septic systems or any of those kind of things, most of them are working remotely and coming into the office only occasionally. And so we've taken technology and moved it to that more remote access, and that's helped us to get people out of buildings so we could, the people who have to be there can be more separated. But we've also actually leased space temporarily for this COVID-19 pandemic, and I did get extra space and lease that because we obviously we couldn't add another 50 people into a building and keep the distance that we need to in a building that was pretty much already at capacity.
And fortunately, if I could guess, you had a lot of people able to help you with that.
In terms of
owners, folks in the county, folks in the city.
Oh yeah, and everyone has been so really great to work with, and understanding our needs and the urgency of our needs. So yeah, it's been very good. The cooperation amongst everyone in the county, from the for-profit business to other government entities and such, has been phenomenal. I can't say enough about Erie County. Erie County's really come together, and even the other elected officials. Gary Lee, my director of administration, has been meeting, I don't know, every 2 weeks, I think, with all the other elected officials, particularly here in the courthouse, to talk about the courthouse, because that's our biggest facility, the most people in and out of here. And they've all been great to work with in trying to keep this place, the courthouse, safe for all who come here as well as who work here. And it's a constantly adjusting situation. Now, with the numbers much higher, as you recently saw, the courts decided to suspend jury trials until January at the earliest, and that will result in less people being in the courthouse, and some of the staff will be able to rotate and work remotely. So, again, I can't say enough about the cooperation that everyone has brought to this effort.
Yeah, and that facility would be difficult to start leasing space to manage that. I think, if I'm correct, everything has to be centralized.
Yeah, it would just be too difficult. So they're still doing some hearings, I should say, that are not require a jury, and they do those. This is another great thing that we started a long time ago, and it's working so well that I hope it continues. Is for the person who's actually in the Erie County Jail, they can do remote with their attorney and the judge, the magisterial judge, or whoever. They can do these hearings remotely, which then we don't have to worry about transporting the prisoner. For the warden, he likes it because it's less of a risk when people leave the jail, and they come back. He's always worried about, are they bringing anything back into the jail that you wouldn't want in there? And so a lot of those things now are not as big of an issue, and it cuts down on time and the employees' times to transport people. So there's a lot of benefits to it, and it's working really well. But we got that technology early on. We worked with the courts on that, and again, I see that some of this probably will even continue past COVID.
I was just going to ask you that. You're developing efficiencies that will carry into the future.
Exactly. And so this forced us into that. It really did. Sometimes government is a little slow on getting into the technology of today.
Yeah.
I always say, we got to get into the 21st century before it's over. But this is happening, and it's pushing us to look at things in a definitely a more efficient way. And I think using the technology that's available that private business in many ways had already jumped onto using in a much greater way than we had. And it's not that government doesn't want to do it. But just like anything, the inertia, or I don't want to even say the inertia, oftentimes it's just the resources. And one of the things the
Yes.
CARES Act money has allowed us to do is to purchase some of the technology that we needed to be able to do this work. So, our budgets are always very tight, and so where do you find the funds to buy this technology that you need to do? If you're a private business, you understand the efficiency on the back end, but sometimes in government, it's hard to make the case for that and spend that money on the front end. So I think in the end, we're going to see a lot of benefits. I wish we had never had this pandemic, but there's going to be a lot of benefits in terms of efficiency in county government that we have achieved because we've been forced to.
When you say things like that, we totally understand that you're focused on the issue at hand. But let me just say, this is WQLN Public Radio in Northwest Pennsylvania. We're honored to have Kathy Dahlkemper, the County Executive, and this is Tom Pies, and we're on 91.3 and across the web on WQLN.org, NPR One, and 6 other podcast venues.
Well, it's great that you have an expanded reach like that.
Well,
I love hearing
Well,
that.
what happens is people tune in. Let's say there's a county exec in South Dakota, and they come across the title. They may not have the chance to call you, but they could listen for a few minutes.
Yes.
Well, you went to Congress. Did you ever imagine this? Well, first of all, going to Congress is obviously an experience. As you look at your life history, did you ever think this is what public service would come to?
Well, you never know what's going to come in front of you. And one of the things I really love about public service is, I would say, the variety and the challenges, and they're always changing and they're always evolving, and it's never the same. And I'm a person who likes that kind of change. I like that things are moving and changing.
Mm-hmm.
But I never really expected to have to deal with a pandemic. I don't think any one of us could have. Although I have to say, our public health officials said there will be a pandemic someday, and we're not ready.
Well,
and so,
Bill Gates said it. Bill Gates predicted it about 5 years ahead on a major podcast service, and no one listened.
Yeah.
And
maybe
I think that's
one of the things that we certainly have learned is that we've done this in other areas. Certainly done this in our defense world. I'd say we've done this in public safety. We're always planning for the what ifs, right? On our public safety team, they're always planning for the flood, the hurricane, the big snowstorm, whatever it is that's going to happen and needs to be responded to. And they're always drilling for that, right?
Yes.
But in public health, there was just so much disinvestment in public health over really the last few decades.
Mm-hmm.
And that disinvestment really led us to not being ready for this pandemic, even though people like Bill Gates and many others were saying, we're not prepared for this. So my hope is that we have learned from this that, we cannot take public health lightly. Melissa Lyon, my director of public health, way before the pandemic, was trying to make the case with the economic development world here in Erie County that good public health was essential to a strong economy. And I thought she had a lot of viable arguments for that, and there was a lot of people who sort of dismissed her arguments on that. Well, we've seen public health has everything to do with a vibrant economy, because our economy has been hit probably by nothing more devastating in recent years, I would say even maybe the Great Recession, than this pandemic. It's hit every segment of every piece of our economy, not just the banks, not just some of those larger entities, but from your small mom and pop stores to your tourism entities, to your larger businesses. This has affected our entire economy. So hopefully we've seen the light on this, and we will invest continually into public health as we go forward, and not only for a pandemic, but in a multitude of areas. For
those listening from out of area, what has this done to your budget? Or are you still calculating everything?
We're still figuring that out. I mean, our budget, because it's one of the interesting things, people don't like property taxes, right?
Right.
And we often talk about trying to change the model in Pennsylvania away from such a reliance on property taxes. But actually, during a pandemic, we're probably better off than the states that have counties who rely more on a sales tax, because we know what's happened to sales tax. We can see that on the state level. And in other places, counties also have their own sales tax on top of maybe the state sales tax.
Mm-hmm.
We don't rely on that. We rely mostly on the property taxes, and some on fees. So some of the fees are down a bit, but some of them aren't. So, and in terms of people paying their real estate taxes, we don't know for sure where that's going to land, because one of the things we did this year was we actually extended till December 31st without penalty people's deadline for taxes.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So we used to have, you could go till December 31st, but you had to pay a penalty if you didn't pay in July. So now, this year, I think a lot of people maybe are holding on to their money, will pay in December, we hope. So we won't know for sure about that revenue until the end of the year actually occurs.
So if I heard you correctly, as bad as all this is, and relative to all the hours you, your staff, and the health department, and everyone in government has spent on this pandemic, it seemed to me that I heard a twinge that you were still looking and planning for the future. Am I right?
Oh, yes, definitely. We're definitely planning for the future in so many different areas. No one has stopped doing that. And honestly, this pandemic is actually allowing us to move the health department to a model, what they call Public Health 3.0, that we've been talking about, and we were moving towards that. But this has actually accelerated our movement towards this, and we've actually restructured the health department, and we're continuing to restructure it so that we will be better able to serve the public once this pandemic's over in all the other areas. But that's just one department. One of the things we did recently was we declared racism a public health crisis. Beyond the pandemic, it is a crisis, but the pandemic actually shone a huge light on it, as we saw more people of color having a diagnosis of COVID-19 and dying from it. So this allowed us to sort of shine that light by having this resolution. But the resolution is not just words. We actually have to report out in 6 months from the date of the resolution, which was in late August. We have to report out to the community what we're doing about it. And I mean, one thing that's been done is the library is actually doing an audit on their collection.
Really?
And finding out, does the collection truly reflect the community in terms of race, ethnicity, age, all of those things. So, but particularly with an eye on the racism issue. And so that has been just one of the first things that was done. So again, we're planning for the future, and we're seeing that there are some issues. They did the youth collection first, and now they're moving on to the adult collection. But that's just one example of how this pandemic shone a light on the health disparities. We created this resolution. Now we're working on another project that we probably wouldn't have been working on today if it hadn't been for the pandemic.
Well, I'm lucky to speak on occasion with Blaine Dessy. I have to say that organization is fabulous. It's truly a community asset.
Oh, you had him on a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, okay.
And,
yes.
Hearing him on your show.
He was great. He has great insight. He's a great choice for the community.
Yeah, we are very fortunate to have somebody of his caliber who basically decided to retire here and then applied for the job and came out of retirement. So, his last position before this was at the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
Oh,
so,
absolutely.
When I saw his resume, I was stunned, honestly, that somebody of that caliber was sitting out there in our community and then willing to come and continue to give some time to this community. So he's been great. But again, it just shows that everyone in our under-county government is still moving forward, is still working on trying to change things for the better. And I can't say enough about the work of county employees. The other thing I really love about this pandemic, and I don't love much, but
nothing.
It's shown a light, I think, on county government in a new way.
Yes.
Because I've always felt that we've been sort of amorphous, and people don't really understand what county government does. And I'm always trying to get that information out there, and your show has helped me to do that. But right now, I think pretty much everyone in this community knows what the public health department does, at least a piece of what they do. And it's shown a light on some different aspects of county government, mostly recently with the elections, too, and how well, I'll say, Pennsylvania as a whole did in terms of our people who work the elections. But Erie County, I think, really shone in that regard. And so I think we are proud right now in Erie County government that we are doing great work. I can tell you the people in the public health department are exhausted, but they keep coming to work every day. They are completely stressed, but they keep coming to work every day because they are so dedicated to their work and to the job and to helping really protect the people of Erie County.
One last question, and I always sneak this one in. Where do you see everything 2, 3, 5 years from now? Obviously, I think you're going to be victorious in your efforts against the pandemic, that is to support the people in our community, and this will be over. Thanks to your hard efforts, it'll be over here. What are you looking forward to, you yourself?
So before this pandemic, this community, I think, was really turning a corner in terms of the economy of this community and just the vibrancy of it. And I really have felt that our future is on the right track. This pandemic has not stopped it, but it certainly has slowed it down just because it had to. But I think there's so many people working collaboratively to make sure when this pandemic is over, we jump right back to where we were and maybe even accelerate a little faster because of what we've learned through this. So I'm actually pretty hopeful and feel that there's been great conversations going on, that 2, 3, 4 years from now, we'll look back and the lessons learned from this pandemic will have helped accelerate our growth in this community to realize what we all know we can be and haven't quite achieved yet. So I think that's what I'm looking forward to. And
in some areas, this has improved some of the mechanisms of government.
It certainly has. I know it certainly has in county government. And we will utilize so much of what we've learned to continue to work more efficiently and effectively and better serve the people of Erie County and work more collaboratively with all of our partners throughout Erie County in a myriad of different areas that we work together with them on.
Kathy Dahlkemper, what a pleasure to speak with you again. I have to honestly say I like the way you have a 360-degree view on everything. I admire your energy. I'm allowed to say that as it's my program. But also we'd like, and I hope people are doing this. And if I could speak for the community for a second, thank you for everything you do for Northwest Pennsylvania.
Well, thank you. And I have to give a huge thank you to WQLN. Since the beginning, QLN stepped up and has let me use the studio up there. So for a while it was every day. Now it's every Wednesday. I go and use the studio at WQLN, and the press has access to that, so they get a live video feed, and the community then, of course, gets that on whatever channel or whatever radio they want to listen to.
Right.
They get that press briefing. And I can't say enough for the partnership of our public asset, which is WQLN, and how generous they have been in being such a great partner. Again, another great partner as we get through this pandemic together.
I'm sure Tom New, as president, is grateful to hear you say that. We're grateful that you took the energy to come up and do that. Well, we're going to have to wrap this up right now. We'll give you a call sometime in the future, hopefully when things are better. As this program airs early December, maybe after the new year, we'll have some great things, positive things in the way of our health to talk about. Thank you very much for this interview.
Thank you, Tom. Always great to be with you.
Next time on The People's Pharmacy, we'll bring you up to date on the health stories behind the headlines.
Whether it's a therapeutic breakthrough or a drug disaster, get an in-depth briefing from the experts.
Our lines are open for your questions about prescription drugs, nutritional supplements, herbs, and home remedies.
Tune in for the health news that matters to you on the next People's Pharmacy.
Saturday morning at 7 on WQLN Radio.
Hi, I'm Manoush Zamarodi, and each week on NPR's TED Radio Hour, we go on a journey with TED speakers, where we'll ask big questions.
And that we truly have to ask ourselves, why is it noteworthy?
That will inspire us, challenge us, and even change us.
I literally feel like I'm a different person. Do you feel that way?
I did. Join us.
Sunday morning at 10 on WQLN NPR.
Welcome to We Question and Learn. Today, we are reaching out to Dr. Greg Filbeck, and he's the director of the Black School of Business, Samuel P. Black III, professor of finance and risk management. You know what the first question is going to be about, and I'm going to ask it face front. This has to be a pretty critical topic for you and your department and Penn State Behrend to be, and the Black School to be thinking about.
Been very, very careful and cautious throughout the pandemic in terms of how we are delivering educational content. There were a number of town halls that we did with faculty and staff over the summer to try to get faculty and staff ready for what we would be facing as the semester started. And I have to say, I am so impressed with how the faculty and staff and then the students, for their own safety. In terms of educational experiences, I would say as much as you can have a normal educational experience during a pandemic, I think that is what we've tried to achieve. Between 60 and 70% of our courses still have an in-person component. Now, in some cases, that's what we call mixed mode education, in which, in order to guarantee appropriate social distancing, the students may be rotating over a couple of day or even 3-day framework for actually being in the class. And I think it's really paid off. Tom, as you look at the Penn State dashboard, which basically tracks COVID cases, we basically have been in single digits, very in 1, 2 here and there in terms of cases, active cases, and a good protocol for addressing it. Now, this upcoming week, we've kicked up to about a dozen cases, but even in that setting, which of course Erie County moving into some record territory at the time of what we are talking, that wasn't unanticipated. But again, in terms of being able to address it quickly, contact tracing, and the ability for ready access for testing and so forth, it's really stayed contained, and we again are very hopeful. And we feel very encouraged that we will make it until the November 20 time period in which we're going to switch to all online education following, the students going away for Thanksgiving break. And so after that point, we will be working remotely.
After November 20th, then?
After November 20th.
Okay, so this will mean that by the time this gets on the air, the campus will be vacant, right?
Well, we will still be open for business. Our offices will still be open. And of course, many of our staff are rotating individuals that would be in an office, for example, to ensure social distancing. But we're still open for business. But as we know, students going back for Thanksgiving, the Penn State system, the decision was made. We were not going to return back to campus and run the risk of people going everywhere and then coming back and potentially seeing spikes associated with COVID.
And is that throughout the Penn State system then? I'm gathering it is?
It is throughout the Penn State system, and the way the Penn State system guidance has worked, and we've been fortunate across the entire system, is that the safety and the protocol that's being used is consistent across the system, but it's evaluated on a campus by campus basis. So if we had a situation, which we're fortunate that we didn't, where campus was really spiking in terms of cases, the decision could have been made to move to all online at that point in time. Many universities did because of spikes that were occurring, but we've been quite fortunate in the ability to navigate throughout the semester. So I'm thrilled, especially here at Penn State Behrend, with how things have gone.
Well, let's talk about the Black School of Business. Let's just talk about the superstructure of it. Let's start from scratch. Location, because this program has quite a bit of reach. Where are you physically?
Yeah, Tom, so a great question. So the Black School of Business, we're located for our residential students. We're located in the Burke Center, a building we share with the College of Engineering, which obviously has offered the opportunity for some great collaborative programs between business and engineering. But one of the things that I think is really distinctive, particularly about the Black School of Business, is that our students are actually located all across the world. In fact, undergraduate program in finance that is delivered through Penn State World Campus, our online engine, and through graduate programs, including a master's in project management, which is all online, and a couple of hybrid graduate programs with our MBA and master's an accounting program, which have basically cohorts down in Cranberry. We effectively have approximately half of our students located in places outside of Erie, Pennsylvania. And it's a very exciting time. And it also is, given the demographics of the region, it's also been very helpful for us in terms of diversification because, quite frankly, the number of high school students coming out of Northwest Pennsylvania will decline and continue to decline through 2025, and it should tick back up. And at the same time, the Black School of Business, even in the context of this pandemic, is up 2.5% in terms of enrollment from last fall to this fall. And we are servicing, through our programs and shared programs, almost 2,100 students.
That's fascinating. You just took my next question away. Faculty, let's talk about size, expertise. How do you manage that many students?
Well, just shy of 2,100 students. Behrend, our latest census count in terms of our world campus contacts and our residential programs overall, around 5,300 students. But in terms of how we manage that, one of the things that the Black School of Business was very early to market with was basically online delivery of education. We've had programs that have been delivered on an online basis dating back to around 2000. We were the lead in the iMBA program, which is the internet delivered MBA program back at that time. And we also have been running our Master's in Project Management program since the early 2000s, all online. And so as a result of that, our faculty come in with enormous talents. And while a lot of universities really struggled with the ability to convert over to online learning and hybrid learning and, if you will, mixed mode instruction, which is where we are now, most of our faculty had experience in that. So once again, the transition, it's never, I would say it's easy. It's a lot of work that goes into converting over courses that were residentially based. But we've had a relatively smoother time with respect to that. So it's very exciting. In terms of expertise, you mentioned with our faculty and stuff, literally, we run the gambit from traditional programs such as accounting and finance as undergraduate programs, marketing. These are programs, though, that when you dig a little bit deeper into the layers, you see areas of expertise that are unique to me, not only in the Penn State system, but in the region. For example, our finance program really focuses heavily on financial designations. And so we're a partner program, for example, with the CFA Institute, which the CFA designation is the most challenging business designation of all. And yet we sit here with the ability to offer 17 scholarships to the CFA Institute through an affiliation program. We're affiliation partner in alternative investments with the Chartered Alternative Investment Analyst Association. Our accounting program with a master's degree program available for students to continue on to be able to earn those 150 credit hours. We have a very, very impressive pass rate for students for the CPA exam, for example. Our marketing program just went through a innovation taking place from a curricular standpoint based on feedback that we got through our 5-year program reviews. But we also have unconventional programs, Tom. We have programs such as interdisciplinary business with engineering studies, our IBE program. It was one of the first programs in the nation to couple the curriculum of business and engineering together so that, again, across the spectrum, you're getting an introduction to all those topics and the ability to specialize along the spectrum between business and engineering. We have the only international business degree program in the Penn State system. We offer both a liberal arts, a BA, and also a BS program in economics. And again, I could go on, but I'll just mention a few other things. We also have 2 impressive centers. Ken Louie, who runs our Erie Center, which is the Economic Research Institute of Erie Center, has gotten national attention, especially given since 2016 the bellwether status that Erie County has from an election standpoint and understanding the economics that are driving some of the things that we see from a political standpoint. Kathy Nost runs Partnership Erie, which is an outreach center that's worked with over 300 organizations to develop websites. On the master's degree program side, again, we have a MBA program with cohorts out of Erie and Cranberry. That's a hybrid program in that It's 25% residential, 75% online. Our master's in accounting program is run exactly the same way. We partner with engineering for a master's in manufacturing management. And our philosophy, and I'll kind of leave it here, for banter here, but our philosophy is this open lab concept, learning by doing, the ability for students to get real world experience as a part of educational experiences. And it really runs the gambit across all of our programs and the way we operate and teach our courses.
I'm overwhelmed. It's fascinating. I was lucky enough many years back to get the tour. I'm sure tours are not the norm right now, obviously. But I've also heard your entire group speak at a Rotary meeting, and you brought the whole, I thought you brought the whole faculty almost, but each person that was responsible for a different part of your output, each had an overwhelmingly interesting amount of information to pass on. But what I'm impressed with, now let's go back one step. The Black School of Business started when, actually?
So the Black School of Business started back in the 1980s. And we had programs that kind of preceded, business degree programs that were being offered. But it was really in the early 2000s where things really took off. The Black family, Sam and Irene Black, endowed what is now the Black School of Business. And in 2003, we became basically an AACSB accredited business school. And again, we just continued to see the growth and reap the rewards associated with all that hard work. But that endowment has really provided a wonderful opportunity for students in terms of student engagement opportunities, outreach, and so forth. And that particular accreditation, AACSB, we're the only school in Northwest Pennsylvania that holds that accreditation. And only 4.83% of universities, business schools worldwide have that. Out of 16,500 business schools across the world, we're talking about 800 schools, 800 business schools that actually hold that accreditation.
Okay, for us folks without our translators here, AACSB, what does that stand for?
So AACSB is the accrediting board for business schools. And just to kind of give you a little bit associated with that, it's as you look at this AACSB accreditation, what it does is it holds basically our programs to the highest standards in terms of economic, I should say, our quality of education that goes along with that. It's basically a global nonprofit organization that basically looks at assurance of learning, faculty qualifications, and so forth. So again, we're just very, very pleased and honored to be associated with such a great gold standard of accreditation.
Now, that just doesn't come automatically. You're subject to renewal?
That is correct. And we go through 5-year cycles for renewal. And there's a tremendous amount of work and resources that go into that. So our accreditation will come up for reaccreditation in 2023 for another 5-year cycle. We, in our last accreditation round, we received such positive feedback in terms of what our programs look like. But we began essentially right after accreditation, starting on the reaccreditation process, and particularly ramp up those last couple of years in terms of getting ready for the visits from those who will come to campus and can review our programs and all the work that goes into the documentation and the final report that we send in. And that they essentially assess here on campus for basically a 3-day stay and go through our programs, interviews, talk to students, talk to faculty, meet with our business advisory board, and so forth.
Okay, you just answered my next question. So how many folks come to visit? How many folks come to manage this review?
Yeah, for the reaccreditation process, it's a team of 3.
Okay.
So are basically business school deans that have basically been extensively trained. They actually are assigned well in advance, over a year in advance, and basically they will be receiving a draft. We can turn in a 50-page draft along with appendices that go along with it that basically outline our assurance of learning, our faculty qualifications, and so forth. And then with that, that document goes in months before the actual visit. There's interaction that's taking place with the chair of that committee to assure that we are on the same page in terms of setting up a schedule. They come into town and literally meet with every set of stakeholders possible. They basically are meeting with faculty, they meet with students, and they go through and ask a number of questions to get a good feel for what we're doing here. And again, making sure that we're delivering what we say we're delivering and that we are holding ourselves to the highest standards possible.
Is this published someplace? I assume it is.
The list of AACSB schools.
Yes.
AACSB has a website, aacsb.edu, in which they go through. You can find all kinds of information on what the accreditation means.
Yeah, so potential students, parents.
Yes, and it's very important. I mean, there's a number of different accrediting bodies out there. So schools often claim quote-unquote accreditations, but this is the gold standard of accreditation. And when you have employers that are looking for accredited programs, many of them, they're focusing exclusively on that AECSB accreditation. So it's very important as people are looking at business schools to kind of see the nature of what the accreditation looks like, what it means, what its reputation is, because it certainly has an impact in the hiring process. It has an impact when we're looking for faculty. I mean, we're looking for faculty that are coming from programs that are AECSB accredited.
Okay, so then everything has to match up front to back.
Yes, it's very important.
New professors, et cetera.
Try to dictate how we run our school, but they are certainly looking to make sure that we have terminally qualified individuals that are teaching in the classroom and that we meet minimum standards with respect to faculty sufficiency, how we're running our classes, making sure that we're measuring the impact of our programs, that we are in a continuous improvement mode with respect to our programs, because again, we want to get better and better and better over time, and they're looking at our metrics for measurements of those various attributes.
It's almost overwhelming, all the programs you have. One item that it came to mind, you are a professor of finance and risk management, and that term sort of came about, 10, 15 years ago, the concept of not only do you, let's get base here, do you have to make money, but you have to preserve the way you make money, facilities, people. By definition, what is risk management to you?
Well, in the context of my training, risk management is really looking at the way to be able to essentially hedge risk. And so that can come anywhere from looking at, from a portfolio management standpoint, about having positions in your portfolio that are risky. From a diversification standpoint, how can you create appropriate diversification? It can be corporate risk management in terms of vulnerabilities that can exist, related to leverage and so forth. So it can take on many different forms. I mean, there's certainly risk management concerns that can exist in the supply chain of an organization. But in the context of my training, what I've done from a financial risk management standpoint, it's more focused on, if you will, kind of the corporate and also the investment side.
Wonderful. How do you interface with companies, corporations, or even other educational institutions?
So I have to say I'm blown away by our professional development program that exists in the Black School of Business. First and foremost, we have a business advisory board that consists of 50 individuals, executives, not only from the region, but literally across the country and world, that help us in terms of strategic committees that we've established that they run and operate in terms of professional development, professional networking, and also curricular feedback. So our business advisory board is led by Pat Black here in town, who's done a wonderful job, been such a great advocate for our school, very passionate about what we've got going on. But each of our programs, Tom, each of our individual programs, they have their own advisory board as well. So we have 125 professionals that serve on different advisory boards within the Black School of Business. In addition to that, we have a comprehensive professional development program for our students that starts day one. We have basically what's known as a first-year seminar, and incorporated into the first-year seminar, these students are arriving, the first couple of weeks on class, and we're talking to them about professional development. And that professional development program has not missed a beat, even in this environment, this pandemic environment, because we switched to everything on a virtual basis. So we featured 10 what we call corporate spotlights. So companies like Amazon or Vanguard running 1-hour programs with our students, talking to them about what they're looking for and what career opportunities look like as well. So our professional development program, to me, is second to none. I mean, when you think about professional development, and we look at what's happening starting day one for these students. We have a first-year seminar, and within the first week, we're already talking about professional readiness and getting ready for the job market. One of the greatest compliments I think I've ever heard of our students is Gina Talley, who's the CEO of Troutwood, a company in Pittsburgh. Tell me, he said, Greg, your students, when they come out, they're workforce ready. They are ready to hit the ground running. And we really pride ourselves on that, but we work on that starting from the very first semester. So our professional development program, even in a pandemic, has not missed a beat. We've shifted our professional development focus to an online environment. We have what's called corporate spotlights. We've had 10 of those this semester, in which companies basically spend an hour with our students. Vanguard has been one of those, Amazon, and the list goes on. And they basically are guiding the students in terms of what they're looking for from a professional standpoint. We work closely with our placement office here, and they do programs on resume preparation and global awareness in terms of sensitivities associated with differences in culture and how you handle that from an interview standpoint, internship opportunities, and so forth. The Penn State network, the alumni network, our alumni association is the largest alumni network in the world. And there's a lot of opportunities for the students to experience virtually all kinds of experiences worldwide. But that professional development experience includes mentoring programs. We have 4 active mentoring programs, including an academic mentoring program with upperclassmen who are working with underclassmen, with professionals who are working with our upperclassmen, a cross-cultural mentoring program, and also our most recent mentoring program, the faculty jumped in and they said, we would like to help out from a mentoring standpoint as well. So in addition to advising, they're offering the ability to have more comprehensive mentoring with students who would like to participate in something that's more intense. And so again, lots and lots of activities going on in terms of business. We do what's called, Tom, an innovation through collaboration projects, where we basically take a faculty and a team of 3 students out to businesses, and for a small contribution, these teams are out there basically helping businesses solve what I'm going to call second-tier problems. They're not their top priorities, but they are high priorities for the business. And these teams go in and assist and help in that area and offer recommendations after meeting with company officials. And this program has been very, very effective. A lot of very satisfied companies in terms of the win-win opportunities it is for them, but also for our students in terms of real-world work experience.
You've discussed so much. Is there a good place, and I know you have a good answer, that someone could review everything you've just talked about?
Absolutely. So if you go out to behrend.psu.edu to the website, and you go into the academics section of it, and all you have to do is click over on under academic schools, and you'll find the Black School of Business, and literally you will find all the different programs that we're highlighting. One of the programs we're particularly proud of, for example, is the Executive in Residence program. We have 7 executives that are donating their time to various programs within the Black School of Business, where they are mentoring, they're doing professional development, they're speaking, they're working with students. So you'll find all of those programs all listed out there on the website.
Boy, have things changed in 40 years, where you graduated and printed out 100 resumes and ran like heck to see if you were lucky enough to find a career. Maybe you had enough connections to manage something, but it sounds like it's entirely different, that in the real world right now, the future of education is to integrate with business and provide a supply chain, so to speak, of highly skilled individuals, and the companies themselves have now come across and partnered with you.
Well, and we actively engage and welcome opportunities for that, because quite frankly, as a university and as a business school, we serve many stakeholders, and certainly these businesses that come in to hire our students are one of our major stakeholders. So Each year, Tom, all of our programs go through what we call a 5-year review cycle. So we go back out, we look at what the market looks like for these programs. We look at future trends. We look at where we need to be in order to be ahead of the curve with respect to that. But we're going out and we're interviewing our alumni through survey. The businesses that have hired our students, and we're saying, hey, these are our learning objectives trying to accomplish in this program. How are we doing it? Do you consider these important? Are there other things that we need to be thinking about? We go to our business advisory board. We ask questions in terms of, here's what we're doing right now. What do you see that we might not be seeing that we should be incorporating into the learning experiences that are taking place?
That's phenomenal. Now, do you publish this amongst your whole department and the university as well?
Yes, we actually do prepare formal reports, and we use these as a part of our AACSB reaccreditation as the teams come in, so that we can show, if you will, that continuous feedback and interaction that's taking place with the business community, with our open lab concept, with what we're doing in terms of learning by doing in the classroom. So these reports actually can be quite intensive, but they show an action plan going forward. Based on our investigation, these are 3 key areas that we're going to be working on between now and the time for our next program review. And then we put those goals into action and set up a plan through our strategic planning document, which is called Strategy 2023, where we literally are addressing over the course of 5 years hundreds of action steps and goals to get us to where we want to be before our next reaccreditation.
Now, one of the most important questions, how do folks find you? How can they communicate with you? Let's say they have a question, or what's the protocol?
Well, there are many different ways students can reach out. I mean, many students will certainly work with our admissions team, which are phenomenal as a first point of contact. So they'll reach out to admissions. We have an individual on our staff who is specifically dedicated to student recruitment, retention, and engagement, and that is Linda Hyatt. So she will be a point person for initial contact as well. We have folks that will come in directly and reach out to me or to other faculty members, and we will get students, parents, people who have interest. We'll get them to the right place. We are doing, obviously, a lot of virtual open houses and events to be able to talk to prospective students right now, but there will be a day coming where we'll be able to look at kind of going back to the ability to meet in person and be able to engage that way. But again, lots of different ways to be able to make that contact, and we all work. One thing I love about Behrend is we all work very closely together to make sure that not only the needs of our students, but future students that want to be a part of Penn State Behrend are being addressed. Again, we are part of a very large university system, and yet we offer that specialized attention that comes with the ability to do that based on our mission and focus.
Dr. Greg Filbeck, this was a most enjoyable half hour. I thoroughly learned a number of things I didn't know.
It's across the business school. I mean, our faculty are incredible. We got great students, and we've got so much that we're proud of.
Well, the Black School of Business certainly is a major community asset for Northwest Pennsylvania. You are as well. Penn State Erie, the Behrend College, we are glad you are here. Thank you for this great interview, and we'll catch up with you in a little bit and see what happens in the post-COVID era, and we can talk more about how you met the challenge and how you maintained your outcomes, regardless of what the outside world is throwing at you.
Excellent. Thank you. Tom, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.